It began with a handshake, one palm raised, two fingers split. A Vulcan greeting met not with confusion or fear, but with a mirror image from a human hand. April 5th, 2063, First Contact Day. When the Vulcan survey ship Toplanahath landed outside Bozeman, Montana, in response to Zephram Cochrane's warp flight, they weren't just witnessing a milestone, they were watching the birth of a species ready to leap into the stars. But they didn't bow to us. Not yet. In fact, they resisted. For decades after that historic handshake, the Vulcans saw humans as unruly, emotional, and dangerously ambitious. From their view, Earth had barely crawled out of its post-atomic nightmare. Vulcans had no interest in empowering a species that still bickered over borders and ideologies. Instead, they monitored us, restricted us, even guided us with the thin patience of a parent supervising a reckless child. But then something changed, or rather someone changed it. That someone was humanity itself. We did what humans do best. We refused to stay in our lane. It started with the NNX-01 Enterprise under Captain Jonathan Archer. Brash, determined, and deeply flawed, Archer wasn't Vulcan approved. But he became the first starship captain to make first contact with dozens of species, to mediate interplanetary conflicts, and to prove that humanity was capable of more than chaos. He didn't just fly missions, he made waves. Archer's voyages sowed the seeds for an interstellar alliance, a confederation of diverse worlds bound not by domination, but cooperation. Behind closed doors, Vulcans watched closely. What they saw stunned them. For all our illogical impulses, humans had an unmatched ability to connect, to inspire trust in Andorians, Tellarites, even Vulcans themselves. We didn't just survive adversity, we embraced it, and we brought others along with us. The Federation was not an inevitability, it was a gamble. To Vulcans who value logic above all else, gambling on humans leading the charge was counterintuitive. But logic alone cannot build alliances. Logic cannot bind enemies together or forge empathy across species. That requires something messier. That requires hope. Humans brought hope. In the years following the Federation's founding in 2161, Earth quickly emerged as its beating heart. Not because we were the smartest, we weren't. Not because we were the strongest, we certainly weren't, but because we could listen, adapt, and bridge the impossible. While Vulcan diplomacy leaned on restraint, human diplomacy leaned on instinct. Where Vulcans brought caution, we brought courage. Together the contrast worked, but the Vulcans didn't just step aside. There was hesitation, resistance even. Vulcans had their own fears, that our impulsive nature would one day unravel everything. After all, emotion had nearly destroyed their own civilization millennia before. It was only through the teachings of Surak that Vulcans learned to control their darker urges. Here were humans, wearers of passion and chaos, asking for a seat at the table. What ultimately convinced them wasn't any one event. It was the pattern, the relentless pattern, of humanity choosing unity over conquest, understanding over suspicion, and exploration over exploitation. That pattern was louder than our flaws, and it made Vulcans reconsider the limits of logic. Perhaps one of the most symbolic moments was the signing of the Coalition of Planets Charter, a prelude to the Federation. Vulcan, Andoria, Teller Prime, and Earth came together as equals. But it was Earth's representative who gave the final speech, a human voice echoing across space to say, "We will go forward together." That moment crystallized the shift. The Federation wouldn't be ruled by Earth, but Earth's approach would be its compass. And then came Starfleet. As the Federation's exploratory and defense arm, Starfleet reflected the Federation's ideals, but with a distinctly human flavor. Starfleet captains like Kirk, Picard, and Janeway didn't always follow orders. They didn't always adhere to protocols, but they carried within them the spirit of Starfleet, curiosity, empathy, and defiance in the face of tyranny. They represented not just humans, but the ideal of what sentient beings could become. And though Starfleet became more diverse, its foundation remained undeniably human. There's a reason why the flagship was the Enterprise. Vulcans, pragmatic as ever, adapted. They didn't abandon their traditions. Instead, they placed trust in a system that allowed multiple truths. Logic wasn't discarded, but it no longer ruled unchallenged. And with humans at the diplomatic helm, the Federation flourished. Some questioned this. Even within Vulcan ranks, there were critics. Those who feared that trusting humans would lead to instability, but others saw the strength in the chaos. Humans didn't just survive war, they learned from it. We turned our darkest moments, like the eugenics wars and World War III, into lessons. That was something rare in the galaxy. And so, Vulcans made a choice, a logical one in their own way. They chose to let humans lead, not out of inferiority or indifference, but because humans were uniquely suited to guide a coalition of vastly different worlds. We were the unpredictable variable that could connect the unconnectable, a species of diplomats, warriors, scientists, and poets. Not perfect, but perfectly in motion. The Federation today is vast. It spans quadrants. It weaves together species of light, gas, silicon, and spirit. Its laws are structured, its governance balanced. But at its soul, there's a spark, a human spark. Not because we demanded it, but because the galaxy saw it. Vulcans saw it. They let us run the Federation not because we were right, but because we were ready. And sometimes being ready isn't about preparation, it's about will. The will to try, to fail, to ask questions others are afraid to ask, to embrace contradictions, to dream bigger than logic permits. Humans brought that dream, and Vulcans, for all their wisdom, had the humility to let it guide them. In the end, that's what the Federation is, a shared dream. One that needed both the fire and the flamekeeper. Vulcans lit the path, but it was humanity that walked it. And we're still walking, still reaching, still boldly going where no one has gone before.